So 1 second, let me hide this. So in Aura framework, right, we have application event. So similarly here, the same thing can be achievable with a different concept, different features like pubsub pattern or pubsub model, we can say, and another one is lightning message service. So these are two different features that we can use to communicate between non-related component or independent component. Okay, so here in the pubsub model, right, in the pubsub pattern, we can communicate with the components which are embedded on the same page, like in the same DOM, we can say. So this pattern is like a publish and subscribe pattern. So for example, there will be two components, component 1 and component 2. So from one of the component will be the publisher component, meaning one component will publish the message and another component will subscribe the message, means subscribe that component. So one will publish the event, another will subscribe or listen it, and through that particular events we can pass our data, pass our parameters and access those. So this is how we can communicate between two independent component using the pubsub pattern here. So like here, like mentioned here, in publish and subscribe pattern, one component publishes an event and another subscribe to receive and handle that event, right? So in the child to parent communication, we have seen that we need to register event at the child component and we have to handle that event on the parent component. So this is how we can communicate in the child to parent, but this is the pubsub pattern will also allow us to communicate between non-related component. So every component that subscribed to that event which received the event, the pubsub model restrict event to a single page. So this is the limitation of this pubsub pattern, that we can only, you know, listen those event or whatever event published by the component, we can listen those event only the single page. Single page meaning if I have two different components, okay, and one component is placed here, for example, and another one is here. So I want to have communication between these two components. So how do I communicate between these two? One of the component will publish the event, publisher will be publisher, and another one will be the subscriber. So meaning one will publish and another one will listen it or handle it. So I can pass that data or parameters from this component to this component. But if you talk about different page than this page, let's say account page, okay, this is the home page and this is the account page, right? Accounts home page. But if you talk about these two different pages, right, now I'm on the accounts record page. So if you want to communicate between these kind of things, right, home page and this page, then you will need a lightning message service, and the pubsub pattern will only allow you to communicate between independent component within the single page only, within the single DOM. Okay, so let's move ahead. So how do we implement? So make a note of it. We can use the pubsub pattern to have communication between two independent component on the single page only. So this is the limitation that we can have. We can, you know, the pubsub model is restrict event to the single page only. Only the components are placed or embedded in the single page can publish and subscribe it and can handle it. So how do we implement it? So these are the steps that we're going to follow here. First, we will create one component, okay, which will be the publisher component. So before that, we need to import this library into this LWC. So this is provided by Salesforce only, Salesforce Developer Group, which we need to import in our org, and then we can refer that to subscribe, then listen and publish whatever the methods are there. We can, I'll explain you about this. I have already taken this here. So in this we have this pubsub component, right? So if you guys can see, this is the JS file in which we can see this code, right? So this is the GitHub library, which we will import this class. Okay. So what is there in this class, right? This is the, we can say, the utility class or utility component, utility LWC component called pubsub. And in the HTML, we don't have anything in the HTML. So we are going to take a leverage of this JS class only, JS file only. So this will be your utility JS. So we will just import this, or we will just create a one lightning web component for this as a pubsub, and we will be using these methods, right? Like we have constant event here. Here we are getting the page references, right? If you can see this, confirm that two page references have the same attributes, right? The page 1 and page 2, whatever it is, will be having the same attributes. And here the register listener, right? We will be registering events like here. And if you guys can see, this is the method in which we are having these parameters: event name, callback, and argument. So the event name, which will be the name of the event, to listen. So this is the listener for that event which we are firing. The callback method, the function which invoke when the event fires. Okay, this is the function that will fire once the event fire from that publisher component or whatever it is. Next thing, this is the attribute that we will be passing to this callback function. Okay, so if it has any any error, then this will throw the exception here, throw new error, and this message will get automatically display on the UI side. And we will check here different things. This is the standard library that provided by Salesforce only. So we just need to fire the event and listen the event. We will be just calling this method. These are some methods implemented by Salesforce, like register event, unregister event, register, unregister all the listeners, and export. So export, this means all these three methods, whatever listener method, right? Register listener, unregister all listeners, and fire event. So fire event is one method where we will be firing the event. We will just calling this method, and this will call the this will fire the event. So all this method export, meaning all these methods will be available to use in another lightning web components, meaning we can import all these methods. So here I have already taken this pubsub model here, in which HTML is blank, as I mentioned, and in the JS file, same thing. I have imported here. Okay, this is the same JavaScript library, JavaScript class, same JavaScript I'm using here, in which we will be having all these methods like fire event method will be there, unregister listeners, unregister all the listeners and register listeners. Okay, and this page references. So we will be just using this for firing and listening events. I will explain you how do we do that. So what was next thing is, first we will create this LWC component, right, which is provided by Salesforce itself. So till now we have created this component here and we are having all the code here in place. Okay. Uh, so here, okay, I have added this one pubsub HTML and pubsub JS. Okay, all the methods are in place. Sorry. What's next? Now we will create one publisher component. Okay, publisher component which will be having one text box, input box, and one button will be having. And on click of that button, simply publishing that event. So this is the publisher component. Let me create this component for you. I will go back here. Okay, LWC, I will create new lightning web component. Giving the name as it is publisher component. Okay. Now, so I will explain you. Let me take this out from here. So I'm just importing wire and fire event. I'll explain you what is this is. Let me save this and let's go to the HTML. Copy this. Paste it. Publisher component. What I'll do is, okay, where is that? I just want to copy this so we can simply embed it, right? So I'm just copying it and pasting it here, and I'll simply deploy it. What happened? Decorator. Okay. Okay, now we are good. So here, what is happening, right? Let me open the JS in here in another tab. So here, if you guys can see, we have just imported this wire model, and so we have LWC, right? PubSub, in which we have just taken that library which is provided by Salesforce, in which we are having this all the methods, right? All the methods we are having here, and what we are doing here is in the publisher components, right? JS, we are just calling this method, right? Fire event from PubSub, C component of PubSub. Okay, so this is the syntax. We are importing this fire event here, and on this method, right? Publish event. So from where this publish event is getting called, if you guys can see, we have taken this lightning input here, right? Lightning input, which is nothing but the text, and on change of this text, right? On change, we have on change method here. So on change method, in on change method, what we are doing here is we have str text, right? Which is the local variable, and we are just displaying that value of str text, which is the local variable in this input. So at the backend, what we are doing on change of it, right? On change of this text, on change of this text, we are just taking that value from this event and assigning back to this, correct? And what we are doing here is whatever value we have typed here in the input text, on button click, we are calling one JavaScript method publish event, and in this publish event, we are just calling the method of the pubsub component, which is there in the pubsub component, right? Fire event, which will fire the event, right? This method will fire the event and pass the str text as a payload, meaning in this event, we are passing this attribute, right? The str text, whatever text we will be typing there in the text box, on button click, we are calling this method. So in any of your component, we can utilize this method to fire the event. So this is the syntax. Page reference, current page reference. So what is this? Current page reference is, this is the standard lightning navigation service, which we are importing here. So which will gives us the reference of the current page from where we are publishing this event, right? From where we are firing this event. So it will give you the instance of this current page, and we are just passing this to this fire event method. And this is the name of the event, okay? And this is the parameter. Okay, so all these are three as a parameter to this method, okay? This is the method, and in which they are firing the event, okay, from this pubsub model from here, fire event. All these are three parameters. So now let's go back to our presentation here. So we have created this, you guys can see here the same thing we have taken out from here into a VS Code. Like, next thing, we need to create one another component which will subscribe this particular event, okay? So what we will do is, we'll create a new component from here, subscriber component. Okay, let's say CMP. And again, what I'll do is, I will just take this out so we can again embed this component by subscriber. So I have taken this, okay, saved it and just canceling this. And in this subscriber component, what we're doing here is and in this export, and what is there in this? We have just one lightning card. First of all, I'll just deploy it and I'll explain. Okay, what I'll do is I'll go back to the screen, and what we'll do is we'll see output first, and then I'll explain what we did in the subscriber component. Okay, so let me embed this. Is this subscriber component? Okay, so let me search for the publisher component. Okay, this is the name that we created, publisher component, publisher CMP. Okay, publisher CMP. So what I'll do is I'll just simply place it here, and the another one will placed below here. I'll simply save it and I'll go back here. So right, this is the publisher component and this is our subscriber component. And we can see that there is no relation in between these two components, right? We haven't embedded any component here. These are two separate independent components, right? So let's get back to this component, and this is the input text that we have taken here, like sending message from publisher component to subscriber. Okay, I have just typed this message, and if I publish this, you guys can see sending message from publisher component to subscriber. So what we did here is, in this publisher event, we are just firing the event, and here, right, str capture text, right? We are just displaying in the lightning card this str capture text, which is the local variable here in this subscriber component. And in this subscriber component, from here we are getting this text, right? So this C wire we are inputting, and we are we are taking this page reference again, the navigation service, correct, which will be on the same page, right, which will take or store the same page reference. And here from this pubsub, right, the pubsub component, the utility component, we are importing two methods here, the register listener and register all listener, right? So what we are doing here is in the connected callback, right? This method will run once the component is rendered on the DOM and will add the listener. So by default, what we'll do is once the components gets loaded, right? We are already listening the events, right? On load of it, the send name, right? Send name, which is the name of the event that we have seen here, right? The send name event. So this is the send name event. We are listening already, and this is the text, right? Set capture text, which is the again another parameter of it, and this will represent to this class. Okay, so we will listen this and disconnected callback, right? Whenever this method will get called whenever your component gets removed from the DOM. We have already seen this life cycle, right? So from that, all the event that all the listeners that we have registered, we will unregister it, and we will clear the cache, right? Meaning we will clear all the register event from this disconnected callback. And this set capture text, which is nothing but we will take the object payload, right? The object payload is nothing but your parameter which is passing to this listener, right? So this capture text, right, which is the local variable, and whatever value we are passing from the publisher, right, will get automatically assigned to this. So this is the thing that we are doing here with this publisher and subscriber. From publisher, you guys can see just a single input text, one button, publish the event, just call this, just import this event, right? Import this fire event method, pass these parameters, current page, event name, and text, whatever you want to. So this is nothing but your payload. Okay, so payload, in you guys can see this is the payload, right? Which is getting assigned to this local variable, and we can simply see the communication happening with this. Whatever communication is happening will get automatically added over here. If we see, but one thing, let's say I want to take this out. Okay, I'll just take this out and let's see if it is talking. Okay, I will just remove that subscriber component. Okay, from here I'll save it. Okay, it's saved now, and let me go back. Go back here. What I'll do is, let me see if it is we have any place on the contact. Count leads. Okay, leads. I'll take leads. I don't think, okay, we have multiple leads. Okay. What I'll do is I'll try to embed this component. Okay, I'll just edit page and we'll embed that component here, the subscriber one, and we'll see the result. I am just making it work default. So, okay, I'm again saving it and let's go back. So now what we did is we have placed these two different components, right? Component, publisher component and subscriber component on two different pages, right? Home page, one is on the home page and another one is on the record, lightning record page. Okay, this is the lead record page, and on this right sidebar we have embedded this subscriber component. And let me type here now, sending message from home page, and if I simply publish it, button is clicked. Now if I refresh it, right, we're not getting anything because the lightning navigation service that we are using there, right? In the listeners we have that current page reference, which will be looking at if both the references, both the components references from the same page, right? So that is why it's not taking here, right? On the different page, if I change the text and publish it again, how many times, it doesn't matter, but you will not get this text because we are not on the same DOM, right? Same single page. So this is the limitation of this pubsub pattern. Let me edit it and let's take it back on the single page. I will just remove it, save it. Let's go back to the home page. I will take it back here. Subscriber component. Let's place it here. Save it. Let's go back. So what I'll do is we have that reference. Okay, I'll share it later on. Okay. Publishing message on the home page. See, so this is nothing but your pubsub model, which work like similar like application event, right? In the Aura component, from the Aura component. So let me do one thing. I'll share this pubsub model library with you, or you will get it here as well. If you guys, I'll just pasting it here in the chat. You can just bring it in your VS Code and utilize it. So 1 second. Communication between. So if you look at this page, right, communicate across the DOM. There are two ways to communicate between the components that aren't in the same DOM tree. So meaning same DOM tree, which is not there in the same DOM tree, right? Meaning it not in the same DOM. So One of them is Lightning Message Service, or use the singleton library that follows the publisher and subscriber pattern. Right, this library is already provided. I have already shared the link with you, and this is also one link that you guys can refer it. So one is Lightning Message Service. Here they have already given this URL. How do we? So we need to follow all the steps, right? We need to go with this all the steps to implement the Lightning Message Service. We will be discussing this with example in the next session, next upcoming session. And for the pubsub model, what they're saying here is, in the containers, it doesn't support Lightning Message Service. Use the pubsub model, right? So to download the pubsub model, this is the link that I have already given to you. And this is what they're saying. This is the standard documentation, right? Salesforce standard documentation. In the publish subscribe, hey guys, sorry, I lost you in between. Guys can see my screen, right? Okay, I have already paste references here in the chart itself. You can take it out, and this is the all about the pubsub model. Do you guys have any doubts here? For the pubsub pattern, if you want to see more examples, you can search on the Google. You will get more examples. How do we publish the event and subscribe the event, and how do we communicate in between uh, non-related component in independent component? Okay. Let me see what we have next. LMS, it can take some time, so we need to wrap up in the one session only. So it will take one session. It's a similar kind of thing, but here in the Lightning Message Service, we can communicate. We can have communication between Lightning component, Aura component, and Visual Force page that are not in the same page. We'll be taking this example in a separate session only. So due to let me see if we can cover the navigations as the Lightning navigation services. Okay, let me paste it here. Okay, we can wrap up this in 10 to 15 minutes. So what is this Lightning navigation, right? We have also seen this thing in this pubsub pattern, right? We saw that we were importing this Lightning navigation. So we can use this navigation service to navigate to many different types of pages, right? From the record pages, list views, object. Also, we can use it to open the files. So instead of URLs, we can just use the page references in the JavaScript. It's a JavaScript object, okay? page reference is the standard JavaScript object which we can use to get the page reference, and we can form the URLs like this. These are the different properties of page references type. So we can have these as a string type, which all these are three required. Okay, the first two are required attributes, type of object, which type of. So what it will contains, it will contains map of name and value pairs. Okay, so which will be set possible attribute names and their respective values. So it will be the map kind of key value pair. And state is an optional parameter, it's not mandatory. So what we will do is we'll directly take one example. Okay, so I would like to use the same example. Okay, so what I'll do is I will create a new lightning web component. Okay, so all things are in place, we just need to have hands-on practice. Salesforce has already given all these things with example. We just need to implement, try this out, and we can also refer these things in your project as well. In this specific scenario, okay, lightning navigation demo batch 3. Okay, this is the component that I have created. You guys know, so don't forget to mention this thing. So I will also mention this. And what I'll do is I'll go back to this. First of all, I would like to take this. I will explain you everything. I will just take this out, lightning navigation. Okay, I have imported this. And what I'll do is I'm just copying this. I will also take this out. I will just take one lightning card here. And into that lightning card, I will just put this div. Lightning card. Let me do title here. Navigation service demo -3. Okay, and let me push it and I'll explain. What's happening here? Expected token number. Go back. Yes, we should be good now. Yes, we are good. So what we did here is we have just taken one URL, right? On the UI side, href, the simple HTML tag, and we are just giving the text as a home account home to this URL. And on click of this URL, handle click is there. What this handle click will do, it will just navigate us to this. So what is this? This navigation mixing dot navigate this dot account page reference. So what it will do is, this is the navigations method, navigation mixins, navigation method, in which we are passing this parameter, this account home page reference. So what we are doing here is we are importing this navigation, okay, navigation service here in the navigation mixing, okay. And what we are doing here is, one second, one more thing we are missing here. We need to pass it lightning element, okay. Extends navigation mixing, and then we need to have this is the parameter. So we are importing this navigation service, which is provided by Lightning framework only, standard one. And what we are doing here is, in the connected callback, whenever this component gets loaded on the UI, on the page, we are just forming one URL here. Okay. So what we are doing here is the account page reference, this dot account page reference, in which what we are doing here is we are just creating one page reference here. Okay. So we are just giving this type of standard object record page, in which we have seen the what are all the different attributes, right? Different here we have seen, right, different properties. One is type and another one is attribute. So same thing we are following here. In the attributes, we are passing the objective name, which is nothing but the account, and action is home. So accounts home page. So this is the page reference that we have created of accounts home, which should take us on the accounts list, means accounts tab. Okay. So after that, what we're doing here is, so this is the lightning navigation mixins generate URL method, in which we will be passing this account home page reference, right? Similarly, we can create page references of any of the page, any custom page or any different kind of tabs or pages, lightning page, home tab. We can create the references of it. We can just call this method to generate the URL. What is this? Then which will gives which will whatever result it will return, right? The URL. So this is the URL that will get the result, and this dot URL nothing but the variable of this current class. So this dot URL will assign this URL result to this dot URL. So this reference will get stored in this URL, and we are just using this reference here on the page here in the ahref tag. Okay. And we have already seen that once we click on that ahref, right, this will call this method and it will navigate to you on this page in this URL. So we have actually using these methods to stop the actual behavior of this URL, and we are preventing the default URL, right? So let's embed this and let's see the result. What I'll do is I will again go back to this home page, okay, and I will simply edit it and we'll embed that component here, the lightning navigation. this is the one. Okay. Account home, we got one URL there. I will save it and I'll go back to the home page. And it should take us on the account tab. See, if I go back to the home page, if I click here, it's taking us to on the account page. So similarly, you can navigate to any page by using this Lightning navigation service. So you can simply refer this navigations and wherever you want to navigate as per the business requirements, right? So all the things are here in the Lightning Web Component Developer Guide. You just need to have hands-on practice. So you guys can, try to implement these simple kind of examples like we did it for the account. You can take another page and in custom page and you can navigate to those pages by using this Lightning navigation service. So this is all about the Lightning navigations. Like we have seen with the example as well, right? With example here in this page, if you go back to the home page, right? Any doubts, guys? Let me stop my sharing.